Good afternoon, good evening, my brothers and sisters. This is E3 with John Guns. I'm super excited about today because, wow, coming out of yesterday's service, where I'm focusing now on developing habits that are happy, healthy, and holy. Coming out of service where the focus was on these habits and starting with worship, I felt like I needed to back up a little and use E3 to talk about developing new, healthy, happy, and holy habits, the 4H. Now, one of the things that's really powerful, and I need everybody to grasp this, is one of the things that's really powerful is how necessary it is that you assess and evaluate your habits. Now, when I talk about habits, and I want to back up a little, when I talk about habits, I'm talking about those practices and those tendencies that become embedded into your life until they become, watch the key word, they become a routine. When it becomes a routine, it's difficult to stop or to cease because it is now a part of how you view your day, your week, your month. It's a part of how you manage life and all that comes with your life. I need everybody to grasp this. Everybody has habits. Most of the time, the habits are formed out of the necessity of managing your job or managing your family. You kind of build out these habits, these practices, and these tendencies. And a lot of times they are forced on you for you to manage the life that you have. But what I want to suggest is that habits need to become something that you choose to do because you have a dream that is so demanding until it requires you to make certain changes for the good of your life. I need you to grasp this today. Habits are not something that should be forced on you. Habits are something you should choose because it ensures that you are a better husband or wife or father or mother or sibling or employee or employer. That you are more focused on living out the life that you feel you've been created to live. That's important today because if you do not understand habits as a positive part of your existence and you do not take ownership of the development of your habits, then what's going to happen is that you're going to find it difficult to have any kind of consistency in your life. I'll give you a great example. I don't even know how long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, in the pandemic, I started sending out weekly prayers to pastor friends of mine. So I've got like 3 or 4 groups of people that I send prayers to. I also send some kind of Sunday inspirational thought to our board and to our board and to our staff. Well, interestingly enough, there were these moments in some of the groups where people don't respond, where I'll send it and I have people who don't respond at all. They clearly show no interest in what I'm saying, right? Or that's how I feel, or that's how I felt. And I remember there was a moment about 2, 3 months ago where I just made a decision. I wasn't going to send it anymore. I was done. It wasn't no big deal to people. And I just was done. I wasn't going to send it. And I got to the Sunday morning when I would normally send it. And I had made up my mind early in the week, I wasn't sending it. But I got to the middle of the week. I got to that Sunday morning, rather, when I normally send it. And I felt so void of purpose in that moment until I sent one line, be blessed, preach well, have a great day. And people responded. And someone actually said to me, hey, man, thank you for your consistency. And it was interesting because in that moment, it wasn't what they said. It was the fact that I did something that had become a habit for me. Here's what I've discovered about healthy habits. You cannot simply stop doing them when you have done them enough until they become a defining part of how you manage life. Wow. That's the power of healthy habits. But that also can be the damage that poor or unhealthy habits have. If every time you have conflict, you run, you shut down, it's not a healthy habit. Every time you get stressed, you turn to certain things that do not help you. Not a healthy habit. That's where you got to begin to understand that habits can be good, they can be bad, but you got to make sure that you get control over your habits. So let's talk today then about developing healthy habits, developing new habits, developing the habits that will make you a better person, make you more productive. This is an amazing quote by a guy by the name of James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. And he writes, too often we let our emotions and desires drive us into a frenzy as we try to solve the entire problem at once instead of starting a small new routine. This is a big statement. We let our emotions and our desires drive us into a frenzy. But one of the things that drives me crazy is watching people who are always running around, always kinetic, always running around, and everything is urgent. Everything is, people who know something's coming. And then they still end up rushing, right? They know it's coming. They know it's coming, and they're still running around. Right? No. Or when you see life, and your life is constantly in a frenzy, and you constantly are stressed and constantly are overwhelmed and constantly are going through, and you find little space to rest. Here's what I've discovered. When you lack that kind of healthy space, where everything isn't a frenzy, when you lack that, one of the keys is developing a routine that takes you out of frenzy. Developing a routine that takes you out of rush. Developing a way to do what you need to do every day, every week, every month that removes you from having to run around like a chicken with your head chopped off and no real control over your life. Routine, habit can help you get order to your life. So let me share some insights from my own readings, my own journey, to kind of help you and us better understand how to develop healthy habits. Here's the first one. Determine what you desire to achieve with your life. This is called envisioning. I say this not every week, but I say this so often until it should now be something that everybody who listens to E3 now as at least embrace as something not only important to me, but I believe should be important to you. And here it is. You got to determine what you want to achieve in life. You have to determine what your desire is to achieve in life. If your desire is to be happy, what does that look like? What does happiness look like for you? I want to be happy. And so I determined that in order to be happy, it had to begin with my family life. That I have to have great relationships with my wife. I have to have great relationships with my children. I have to have and that includes my son-in-law. So when I say children, I include him. I have to have great relationships with my grandsons. I have to have great relationships with the people in my life, in my space. I have to have great relationships with people. And now I do understand that there are times when you have to be strong enough to risk a relationship for the health of your own mental health. And I'll come back to that. But my ultimate goal is to have healthy relationships. So that's why a lot of what I teach and preach is about relationships, because one of my ultimate goals is to be happy. And I've associated, and I'll come back to that in a minute, I've associated happiness with healthy relationships. Well, one of the things then that you all have to learn to do is to envision. And that is so important. Joy Page once wrote, dream and give yourself permission to envision a you that you choose to be. Wow. Give yourself permission to choose a you want to be. If you could choose a life, this is the life you would choose for yourself. Give yourself permission to choose that. Give yourself permission to look at your life and go, that's the life I would choose. If I was building out my life, that's the life I would build out. If that's what I was building out, if that's what I was determining my life to look like, that's what it would look like. That is huge, because when you decide that you're going to have greater ownership over your life and stop being so emotionally schizophrenic, that stuff just sends you and you go wherever the emotions are, and you go wherever the day is. You go with no. I've got a decision in how my day is going to go. Listen, if something happens that is catastrophic in my life, I even have a decision on how I'm going to respond. I could be the absolute most devastated person ever, or I can make a decision on how my day is going to respond. How am I going to respond to this? How am I going to respond to this? I have a decision on how I'm going to respond. I also have a decision on how I want my life to look. Y'all hear? I'm sorry for my voice. I don't know where it came from. I must have hollered too much yesterday. I'm not sure, but I have authority, right? Give yourself permission to envision the life you want. How do you do this? Well, here's some of the keys to this. Declutter your mind. Declutter your mind. Whatever that process is for you, declutter your mind. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's reading. For some people, it's reflection. But whatever it is, declutter your mind. Declutter your mind. 2, organize your thoughts around your vision. Organize your thoughts around your vision. That's good. Organize your thoughts around your vision. Take your thoughts and say, okay, in order for me to have this life, I got to organize my thoughts around vision. And finally, settle that it will require sacrifice. Just don't even trip. It's going to require sacrifice. Settle in that it's going to require sacrifice. Just settle in. It's going to require sacrifice. So I have to declutter my mind. I have to organize my thoughts around my vision. And then I have to settle that it's going to take sacrifice. And whatever that sacrifice is going to be, I'm going to do it. Here's the second thing, right? See this as a process of small steps. See this as a process. This is the second thing. First thing is determine what you desire to achieve with your life. Second, see this as a process of small steps. Habits do not begin with like today, I'm going to run 5 miles, right? And then I get back for if I ain't going to run 5 miles. But, I'm going to run 1.5 miles, right? Or I'm going to walk 1.5 miles. I get back and it was just... it was hideous. It was hard. And so I wake up the next day and I go, you know what? I'll take a day off. Instead of going, you know what? Let's do this, John. Let's walk to the end of the block and back. Put on your headphones. Listen to music or a book. And then reward yourself when you finish. I'm gonna come back to that. I've said it twice for a reason. Now, it's not so much that I'm trying to walk a mile and a half or whatever. I'm just getting out the house, putting on my tennis shoes, getting out the house, walking down the street, which may be, I don't know, but I walk this block and then I walk back. Now, all of a sudden, that's manageable for me. And it wasn't so stressful until it's something that I don't want to do anymore. See, some of you are trying to change your life so dramatically until you're doing things that actually make you hate the change. Wow. You're actually doing things that makes you hate the change. You're not a person who runs 5 miles, or you go to the gym and you say, I'm gonna go to the gym 5 days a week. You're not a gym rat. So why are you trying to force that on yourself? You're not somebody who reads a whole, you never read a whole book in your life. So start with reading a daily devotional with, start somewhere. Start somewhere. That's the mistake that we make. I've made it more than once. I want to change, but I don't understand the power of small steps. There's an old Chinese proverb that says it's better to take many small steps in the right direction than to make a great leap forward only to stumble backwards. Wow, it's better to take many small steps in the right direction than to make a great leap forward only to stumble backwards. Man, I'm loving this. So how do you do this? It's going to be real simple. Reorganize your thoughts around getting something done every day. Reorganize your thoughts around getting something done every day. This is called discipline. There's a quote that I read on one of my fraternity brothers, a guy named Roderick Bonds, sends this thing out every day to our chapter. I pledged at Virginia Tech, and so it's about 20 of us on this text thread, and he sends this out every day, right? And he really doesn't get any responses, but it's a habit. He's just committed to it. But today I had to give him props on this one. It says you must discipline yourself and take full control and responsibility for the outcome of whatever it is that you are seeking at the moment. You got to take full responsibility for what you're seeking to accomplish in the moment. And in the moment may not be, 6:20 p.m. on Monday, November 28th. The moment may be the season your life is in. Like the season my life is in requires discipline. And I have to take ownership of that. I have to decide that I want to be responsible for outcomes that are in alignment with God's will and my desire. Now get this. If I am really doing life well, I eventually decide that God's will is my desire, and my desire becomes God's will. How do you do this? Celebrate progress, even if it's small. Celebrate progress, even if it's small. And then evaluate while you're working it out. Take an inventory of how you're doing, take an inventory of how it's working, evaluate it while you're working it out. So you reorganize your thoughts around getting something done every day. You celebrate progress, and you evaluate it while you're working it out. This is really good today. Man, I really hope that you share this with other people. This is really good. Here's the third thing. Here's the third step in developing new habits. Associate reward with your habits. I was reading in preparation for this, and I was reading in preparation for this, and I read this piece where they use this example An example was that, you want to get up and start exercising every day. So you put your shoes next to your bed. Okay, I get it. That reminds you that you want to walk today. Put on your shoes, you walk, and when you come back, you give yourself a piece of chocolate candy. Small piece, nothing big, but you give yourself a piece of chocolate candy, right? You put the chocolate candy out. So when you walk in the house, you see the candy. And he said, you eat the Hershey's Kiss. He didn't call it Hershey's Kiss, but just throwing it out. You eat the Hershey's Kiss, right? And then you walk away. You get up the next day, shoes there, you walk in, you eat the chocolate. What's happening? I'm starting to associate behavior with reward. Okay, I'll give you a good example. Your spouse handles a situation well, right? Your spouse does something, and you tell them, thank you for what you did. Okay, spouse says, I don't, and my wife does this. This is, I can use this example. Not that big of a deal. But the next time I do the behavior, she says again, thank you. Oh, wow. Then all of a sudden, I start to associate that if I do certain things, I get certain responses. Okay. So now I start doing it with regularity. And her consistency is thank you. Now, there may be times she may not say thank you, but now it's habit. And because it's habit, I now start to do it without looking for the reward, but understanding intrinsically and subconsciously that this behavior blesses her to the point that the reward is her response to me. Listen, at some point, you got to understand that when you do certain things, there comes a reward. I'm a giver. I'm a tither. So the Bible says, bring you the tithe to the store. I feel sorry for people that are not givers. I just don't, I don't get it. And I'm not just talking about to church. I'm talking about just life in general. Just life in general. I feel sorry for people who don't understand the power of giving. But here's the thing that's so amazing. You ready? I give. And then God does something amazing for me out of my obedience. And then I go, okay. And I start noticing that the Bible, the promise in the Bible works. So I start trusting the promise by doing the behavior. Yeah. Wow. Are y'all getting today? Yeah, so associate reward with your habits. If it's a habit that can be rewarded, associate it. Associate it. Here's the final piece today. Involve trusted allies in keeping you on task. Involve trusted allies in keeping you on task. I ran into a quote by a guy by the name of Henry Cloud from his book, Safe People, How to Find Relationships That Are Good for You and Avoid Those That Aren't. And he makes this incredible statement. And he says, this is one of the marks of a truly safe person. They are confrontable. They are confrontable. Here's why I gave you that quote. Because when you're in a process of trying to get better, when you're in the process of trying to get better, what ultimately ends up happening, and I need you to get this, is you have to be in a space where people can confront you. You have to be in a space where people can confront you. You have to be in a space where you can confront other people. One of the worst things, man, help me, is for you not to be able to confront people in a way that makes you and them better. or that you cannot be confronted without getting offended, or that your immediate first response to everything is offense. Some things that people say, even in anger, can still be helpful. And when you're in the right relationships, being confronted is not going to hurt you. And also confronting is not going to hurt you. So there has to be a place where you decide, I'm going to be able to deal with being confronted. One of our amazing professors at the School of Theology, a guy by the name of Dr. Nathaniel West, Nate West, did this presentation on emotional intelligence at Ellison Jones Convocation. Absolutely masterful, tremendous. Wouldn't have traded his presentation. But he tells the story about how this guy used to needle him and aggravate him on a previous job or assignment. And finally, he snapped around a whole lot of people because the guy kept messing with him. And he said, F you. Now, people were shocked and whatever the case may be. Because if you know Dr. West, you know he's really an extremely level-headed guy. But he had reached his boiling point and he was done, right? And he talked about how, because he didn't deal with this early on, he ended up snapping. We talked about emotional intelligence as a part of emotional intelligence is dealing with your life and dealing with your emotions and being able to manage them in a healthy way. But here's what I discovered. When you're developing habits, you need people who can confront you. When you communicate, you want a certain habit to become a certain behavior to become a habit for the sake of envisioning, accomplishing your vision, and you wake up and you're not doing it, and then they confront you, and then you get angry. That means you never really wanted an ally. You only wanted fans. Fans are what we see with Donald Trump and MAGA. The man is corrupt to the core. And people just celebrate him and applaud him and tell him he's wonderful. And he thinks that he has no accountability because he has fans. Allies would say, Donald Trump, that's wrong. But all around him, while he was president, was fans. Fearful people. You don't want that. I don't want that. And sometimes it's tough as a leader to have people who tell you the truth. But the only way for you to get better, the only way for something to become a habit, is you got to have confrontable relationships. Whew, man. Thank y'all for watching. I'm tired. Thank y'all for watching, though. It's been amazing. It's been these almost 30 minutes with you. Please watch again, but also share. If you don't mind, would you share this with other people? Would you share the thoughts with other people? Thank you so much for this time. I'll see you very soon. Remember, this is your season. Seize the moment. Thank you for your support. And thank you for spending Monday with me.